New Orleans, Alexandria.
So when you want to bury a story, there's not much of a better way to do it than a few hours after Tiger Woods wins the Masters for the first time since 2005, and right as the Game of Thrones season premiere is happening. But that's what LSU did last night. It's a good way to bury the story that Will Wade had been reinstated. But we've talked about it so much here locally. I wanted to get a national perspective, and we appreciate Jay Bilas of ESPN for jumping aboard here for a few minutes. Jay, thanks for the time, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you?
Fantastic. We really appreciate your time here. Just first, your reaction when you saw the reinstatement news.
I was surprised. I was surprised at the news that the NCAA and LSU were going to meet with Will Wade, that he'd agreed to it, and then I was stunned that he'd been reinstated on Sunday night. So it was very surprising.
Why were you stunned? What was it about that led to that reaction?
All that had led to his suspension, and then the sort of a month passing, including the NCAA tournament, before he sat down. After reading all of the coverage and the report of the wiretap that had been listened to and detailed, and then the subsequent suspension, to me, I can't imagine an explanation for that would cause a reasonable person to change his or her mind.
Can you think of and I don't know that you've given this much thought at all, but I am curious if you can think of a comp for this situation with Will Wade and the FBI wiretap with any of the other impressions of improprieties around college basketball.
You mean in the current landscape?
Sure. I certainly wouldn't go back to another era, but basically how this transpired with the evidence that was there and ultimately LSU reinstating Will Wade.
There is no comp for it, because I think if you look at when the news first came out months ago, before the season started, I think you would be able to compare Sean Miller, Will Wade, and how they were treated by their respective institutions, how the issue was reported, and it was comparable. In fact, Sean Miller, I think, was the first one when it came out last February that I think people, myself included, were the strongest on. But when the subsequent news came out, I think it was October. I remember being at SEC Media Day and it was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see people jumping up and down saying so and so should be fired, or this person should be fired, or the guy here should be fired, and you didn't hear that necessarily with Will Wade, but you expected some answers, and not surprisingly, because the FBI and the Southern District of New York were involved, that you weren't going to get them. You're going to get a lot of sort of no comments and let's wait and see how this plays out kind of thing. But when there's no comparison for when the Yahoo report came out. There's been no other coach that's had that sort of detailed report come out.
Is the difference, Jay, that the transcript is reportedly of Will Wade, of the head coach, and not, let's say, like the Kansas situation where there are text messages between assistants and Christian Dawkins? Is that the sticking point? That's the variable for so many people looking at this case?
No, well, I don't think there are sticking points. Trying to compare one to the other and saying, well, wait a minute, how could you say that about our coach when you're not calling for this other coach? Or why would you support this when you're not supporting that? To me, that's a fool's game and a fool's errand. If you're just looking at the issue with Will Wade, I don't see how any reasonable person can look at that and say, yep, nothing to see here, let's all move on. He said he didn't do it. So, look, because you met with the NCAA doesn't mean that the NCAA said, okay, no problem, let's move on. The NCAA doesn't fire or suspend. They don't do that. So the fact that they sat down with them is not dispositive of the issue. And I think you can tell from LSU's statement that it wasn't some ringing endorsement. What LSU said is, hey, we're disappointed he didn't do this before. We're kind of confused why he didn't. But he denied it, and we don't have any direct actual evidence in front. We don't have a dead body and a smoking gun in front of us. So he satisfied his contractual obligations. That's all that was said.
Sure.
And so, like, I don't count that as a ringing endorsement. Maybe other people do. But I can tell you that taking it out of just the LSU Will Wade situation and just going globally, I've been a little bit surprised by this whole thing that people just don't care. And speaking generally, like most people don't seem to care about any of this. What they care about is their team. So if their team is allegations are brought up about their team, most people are very quick to say, wait a minute, there's nothing proven here. Let's play. And we got a good team. We don't want to hear anything about it. Or if it's the rival, then they say, told you they were cheaters, but everybody else doesn't care. And I think that's been conclusively proven. Now that doesn't mean everybody. There are people that care, find this reprehensible or find this repugnant, whatever. There are a lot of people who have a lot of different views. But overall, people don't care about this, and that's been a little bit of a surprise to me.
I'm here. Jay Bilas is with us, and I'm glad you went down this path, Jay, because I know you're one of the most outspoken when it comes to student athletes and compensation and that general topic, big picture umbrella topic. So why? I'm curious why that surprises you that people don't care.
Well, because, like, to me, and that's brought up a lot, the idea about how, hey, like, people saying to me, you're an advocate for athletes to be compensated, so the idea that a player got money shouldn't bother you. But it's currently against the rules. I advocate for a rule change. I don't advocate breaking rules. And look, I'm not naive. This stuff has been going on since the beginning of the NCAA. Players have been paid forever to the tip, but it's always been against the rules. Now it may, shockingly, may be a federal crime, which I still have. I don't believe this should be the case. But good luck telling the federal government what's a crime and what's not. But I think it's one thing to say, hey, the rules should change, and another thing to say, well, I condone breaking the rules. I don't condone that. So when a coach gets caught doing something that we all agree is against the rules, to say that for all the administrators out there to say, well, we believe in integrity and we believe in doing things the right way. Like, I don't know the president at LSU. I know the athletic director. But, I would have a hard time trying to tell anybody that we believe in integrity and doing things above board the right way and then coming to this conclusion. I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it to you. Look, I don't know Will Wade that well, but if he were working for me, he wouldn't have a job right now. I'd fire him. And I dare him to sue me for wrongful termination because, I've got a moral compass. I believe that breaking the rules is wrong. And I think that the rules have clearly been broken here. And it's pretty clear what was on those wiretaps that has been reported. Now, unless we're saying that these quality reporters have all gotten it wrong, and it's some grand conspiracy to get a few coaches, and that the government's in on it, then okay, I'd like to see some evidence of that. But I have a hard time believing this. It's a bridge too far for me.
Jay Bilas, a couple more minutes, and I appreciate your time and your perspective. And I do want to dip in because you do have a legal background that I think most people understand. You mentioned earlier, minus dead body, smoking gun. Do you feel that, and obviously that doesn't appear that there is that here, that seems to be part of what satisfied, Will Wade's conversations with his employers in the NCAA, at least for now.
Well, we don't. Well, first of all,
sure.
The NCAA hasn't been satisfied. That's not what
sure.
they do.
Well, that was actually my question. So, minus that, right? Because there is no burden of proof for the NCAA that they can essentially legislate however they want. With your experience in covering the sport, things like this, with what we know at this point, when the NCAA inevitably does start digging after this federal case is over, do you think that there's enough there for the NCAA to punish LSU? And obviously, I'm asking you to speculate here.
Yes, I do. Now, there's going to be more that comes out. Like, the government is going to share more information with the NCAA after this case is over. And we don't know whether Wade and Miller are going to be compelled to testify in this trial in the Southern District that's scheduled to begin on April 22nd. There's a motion before the court right now to exclude their testimony. If that happens, we'll see what happens there. But that's not going to stop the government after the case is over from sharing information
at length today is that clearly there's more to come potentially with the NCAA and obviously with the federal trial that starts next week. This was a step in getting Will Wade back, but it's certainly not the end of the whole process. If I could ask one more, I could talk to you all hour, but I'm be respectful of your time. If I could ask one more, and I want to ask this in a way that I hope you'll excuse the way that I ask it, but I'm just curious the way that you'll react to it. One of the narratives here, ground zero, has been Kansas, Arizona, Duke, all these blue bloods that have been mentioned in the FBI laundry list, which includes dozens of schools. They're picking on LSU because LSU isn't a blue blood. When if they really wanted to go hard after Kentucky or Duke or Kansas or anyone, they could likely find the same. From a national perspective, not being here, what do you say to that allegation or accusation? Because Jay, I'm gonna tell you that is a heavily believed idea here today.
Yeah, and I think it's unreasonable. Here's what I would suggest is, and look, I've heard this. I listened to an interview with Dick Vitale done by, and I don't know whether
that was our station's morning show.
Yeah, so I heard that, and I felt like it was a little bit scattered in its approach. But I would say that look, comparing how Will Wade has been treated to comparing how Zion Williamson being mentioned in a wiretap. I don't think that's the proper comparison. I think the comparison would be Zion Williamson and Javonte Smart. Now, comparing those, you don't see national commentators going after either player or any players in this. What you hear are discussions about coaches because of the obligation the coaches have, and they've essentially taken the equivalent of an oath that they are going to abide by the rules. So, like I said before, when this all was first reported before the season, I don't think you could reasonably claim that Will Wade was treated any differently from a national commentator perspective than was Sean Miller or Bill Self or Curtis Townsend, Bill Self's assistant, with the sort of the text message reports that came out of this federal investigation. When the heat got turned up and minds were changed, and certainly mine was, on Will Wade was when the Yahoo report came out, a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever it was now, I'm losing track of time because of the season. But
yeah, it was about 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks. So that changed my perspective on it completely. And look, after reading that, and I trust that reporting, just like I trusted Mark and still trust Mark Schlabach's reporting on Sean Miller about a year ago. I didn't need a whole lot more to say, you know what, I don't need to have bank records to prove that we have something going on here, and we have somebody in the employee of the university talking about something going on, and we're not going to have that. Now that would be me. Now I'm not storming the administration offices at LSU with torches and pitchforks. They can do what they want, but I get to say what I want, and that's how I feel about it. And I don't think it's been said in an unreasonable fashion or frothing at the mouth or anything like that. And I don't think Will Wade's been treated any differently than any similarly situated coach. And I think all you have to do is go back to October and look at how he was, the commentary on that, on Will, on Sean Miller, on Bill Self, on all the different programs that were discussed in this. But if you want to say, and I heard that on the Vitale interview, if you want to say, well, wait a minute, you're not saying anything about Zion Williamson, how dare you say anything about Will Wade? I don't think that's the proper comparison. I think it's more a comparison of coaches and then a comparison of Javonte Smart and Zion Williamson, and I don't think those two have been treated any differently at all either.
Jay Bilas, ESPN, on Twitter @JayBilas. So much appreciate your time and your candor. Hopefully we'll do it again.
A pleasure. Thank you.
All righty. That's Jay Bilas. This is After Further Review. Wanted to get a national perspective.